Got a Honda in the shop and we're putting a new valve cover gasket in it. Let's get to work. This is what we're working on today. A 2004 2.4 liter Honda Accord EX with a K24 engine. There's a look at our engine. This is going to be our valve cover, or cylinder head cover as Honda likes to call it. And the gasket that seals it to the head, they start to leak oil over time. And so that's what we'll be replacing today. Alright, first thing we'll do is get our intake manifold cover off. We just need a 10mm socket to get these off. Now we'll just lift it off. Now it's got a little retainer somewhere right in here that we got to pop up. So there we go. So there's our little retainer. Next, we'll pull the bolt right here that holds our bracket for the power steering line. Same thing, we just need a 10mm socket. Now we'll go ahead and get our ignition coil cover off. It's held on by these 4 fasteners. These 2 are going to be bolts. These 2 are going to be nuts, but they're also attached to bolts with studs on them that go through our number 2 and our number 4 coils. So sometimes when we pull these out, it'll pull the entire bolt out underneath also. 10mm socket for these also. And it looks like it pulled the bolt up also. Both of them. So that's okay, but we will disconnect them when we put it back together. But yeah, I pulled it all out. Pulled it from these 2 coils right here. Alright, to get these off, I'm just going to hold it with a wrench on the back side there and zip them off. Whoa! There we go. These things can be on there a little tight. Of course, you got to make sure your wrench doesn't slip. That's what was happening to me. The wrench popped off and was slipping like that. So that's what it looks like. Just comes apart like that. So this goes through our coil. Then this holds our cover on. And it's definitely easier to have them apart for reinstall. We'll go ahead and pull the 2 remaining bolts, 1 and 3. So this is going to be number 1 cylinder, 2, 3, and 4. And of course our firing order on this engine, 1342. Now we can just pull our coils up and then disconnect them. Just be careful. Sometimes these connectors are a little brittle, and if you just smash this little tab down, you'll break them. So we'll just pull them all out like that. Now with the coils out, this is nice and loose, and so we can move it up out of our way. Let's go ahead and get our dipstick out of the way. Now we'll go ahead and disconnect our breather hose. We just got to move this clamp back and then pull the hose off. I'm just going to use some long needle nose pliers to do this. Pull that clamp back like that, and we'll get some hose clamps or hose pliers to get that off. Now this hose is very stiff. We can put it down like that, but we're going to be disconnecting these vacuum lines right here, and we want these pulled back a little bit to give us some room, and this is going to push them right back this way. So in order to make life just a little bit easier, I'm going to take this clamp, move it over, and we're going to pull this clamp off and take this little piece of hose off. And just that, getting it out of our way, just makes things a little bit easier when we try to take this off, and especially when we put it back on, because we already have to deal with that hose there. And so this little guy right here, if we get it out of our way, just makes life easier. Now we got some vacuum lines that are attached right here, held on by this 10mm bolt on this bracket and this 10mm bolt right here. So we'll go ahead and pop those 2 out. Alright, using a 10mm mid-length socket, we'll go ahead and pop these out. They're the same. Alright, I'm going to try to make a little bit more room for this wiring harness by pulling off this vacuum hose right here. Now, see, we could put our harness way back there, and now everything is out of our way as best we can. Now, I'm just going to pull these back and tie them out of our way, just to give us a little more room. Yeah, that gives us a little more room right there. There are 6 nuts holding our valve cover on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 back here. We're going to need a 10mm socket to get them off. And don't lose it. That's what they look like. All right, now we're just going to pry up these washers that are on here. Just like that. Now, our valve cover is stuck on there pretty good. So we're going to take a pry bar, stick it right here, being careful not to damage the mating surface, and pop it up. In this case, I'm just using a flat tip screwdriver. Just get this to pop up and move. There we go. Now it's loose. Now we'll see if we can get it up out of here. It's definitely a tight fit in there. Yeah, when you're pulling that valve cover out, this power steering hose is definitely not your friend. It gets in the way because we don't have a lot of clearance between here and there. But it's out of the way, and here is our valve cover gasket stuck to the head, so we'll just peel this off. Here's our new valve cover set that we're going to be installing. This one's made by Felpro. If I'm going to go aftermarket and not use Honda, I don't mind using Felpro. They're pretty good. I do believe that that is our part number there, and comes with everything we need. Here's a look at our valve cover, and of course we're going to have to clean it up. Now before we clean it up, these are our spark plug tube seals right here, and these are hard as a brick. So we're going to have to pop these out. We'll be replacing them. Our new kit did come with new ones, so we can pop these out first and then get this thing cleaned up. Now to pop these seals out, we can try to knock them through from the other side. We can use a pry bar like this and pry them up. We can use a seal puller like this to try to pry them up. This one happens to be adjustable. It's made in the USA, but I can't remember who makes it. Maybe Lyle? I don't know. Anyway, why don't we try this one first? There we go. There's one. Yeah, these seals were definitely done for, so it's good we're replacing them. Now, we'll just go ahead and clean things up, making sure, paying attention to our sealing surfaces here and the groove here where our valve cover gasket is going to go. Everywhere else just makes it look better, but those main areas right there, we need to make sure they're clean for reinstall. A nylon brush and a couple cans of brake cleaner is what I'm going to use to clean this up. Alright, it's all cleaned up, ready for our new seals and gasket. Now we got to clean up the mating surface on our head. There's going to be some sealant used right here, and then the same in the back, right there and back over there. We got to get all that old RTV sealant or Honda Bond, whatever was used last time, we got to get that stuff off. And then we just got to clean up everything all the way around. Making sure that, you know, any grime or crap that's right here, get it back away from the head. We don't want anything falling into the engine. So I'm going to get all this stuff cleaned up. A plastic scraper can definitely be useful in getting some of this garbage up without marring the surface. Always fun getting these little pieces of RTV in the back. Alright, now that I got everything cleaned up pretty good, I'm just going to take some brake cleaner. on a rag and just clean up the surface one last final time. Now we'll take our new spark plug tube seals that came in our kit. We're just going to set them into place like that. We'll take a plastic hammer and we'll just tap all the way around. And we just want to get it, we just want to get it flush with right here. So basically we're just going to tap it around like that until it gets flush with the outside. Once we hear the noise change, we're good. There they are installed. Just make sure to get them down flush and even. Now we can go ahead and take our new valve cover gasket and get it installed. We can just follow the contours and get it in place. If it doesn't stay, then we're going to have to use a little bit of RTV to keep it in place. So hopefully it stays in place. And the gasket's installed. Just make sure it's pressed into place evenly, especially paying attention to the corners and right here, this profile. But now this is good to go. Now, before we put our valve cover back into place, we got to put some sealant down. So we're going to have to put some sealant right there at that seam. See if I can get a shot in the back. And hopefully you can see the same seam right back there, right where my finger is. That seam right there, we need it. On this side of the engine, we can see that seam right there. And the same thing in the back. Hopefully you can see it right where this comes down and meets. There's a seam right there that we have to get. So, I'm going to use Honda Bond. I'm sure there's other stuff you can use, but I'll be using Honda Bond. And this is the stuff I'll be using. Now I just have a tiny bit of oil. I'm just going to oil the spark plug tubes so that they slide on there a little better. I should have done this off the vehicle, but I forgot. I'm human. Now we just want to rock it so that these slide over nicely. And go down into place. Now it's a good idea, check all the way around. Make sure that your valve cover is seated properly all the way around, including the backside. Now, using new valve cover grommets out of our kit, we'll just go ahead and get these in place. And we'll get these nuts started by hand. Now, we want to tighten these down in 2 or 3 steps in sequence. So this is going to be 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, this is 6. So we're going to do it just like that. So we'll just bring this one down just a little bit. Same thing back here. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then we'll do it again. 1, we'll go a little bit tighter. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And these are 8.7 foot-pounds, so now we can bring them down. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That pass I took them down to about 3 foot-pounds. Now we can go down to 8.7. All right, we'll go ahead and reinstall our dipstick. While we're thinking of it, let's get our tie out of the way. We'll go ahead and reattach the bolts to these vacuum lines. Yeah, these are only 8.7 foot-pounds, so don't crush them. Let's get our power steering bracket before we forget about it. Make sure you get it all lined up properly. They like to move around. Let's get our vacuum line reattached. And our breather tube, and we'll make sure we put it on the right way. And whoops, we put the cart before the horse, didn't we? I know you guys were yelling at me. Hey, big dog. Yeah, it helps to have this right here. Now we'll put this on. Yeah, got a little excited and got ahead of myself, but let's go ahead and grab the coils, get those in. I do have a little bit of dielectric grease on the end there. Just make sure they all clip into place. Now remember, the bolts go into 1, come on, 1 and 3, and our studs go into 2 and 4. And we'll just run them down. I have it on hand tight feature. And these are only 8.7 foot-pounds, so just be smart about it. And we'll put our ignition coil cover into place. Get these on. And these are all 7.2 foot-pounds if you wanted to get a torque wrench. And we'll set our intake manifold cover back into place and pop down the grommet. And we'll get these back in place. And these are 8.7 foot-pounds. Alright, now's a good time. Double check our work. Make sure we didn't miss anything. Make sure everything is tightened back down. All parts are back where they're supposed to be. We didn't leave any tools. We'll get our flashlight. I think we're good to go. Now, because we use sealant, Honda says that we need to wait at least 30 minutes before we put any oil in the vehicle and at least 3 hours before we run it. So we can't start the vehicle for at least 3 hours. Well, that's it for this one. And just remember, you only have 5 minutes after applying that Honda bond to get that valve cover installed. In any event, if this video helped you out, you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.